I had never imagined that my life would unravel so violently on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The sunlight filtered through the blinds in our living room, casting long, lazy stripes across the floor. When I walked in, I was humming to myself, a habit I had developed to fend off the stress of the day. My mind was preoccupied with the upcoming quarterly report, but that distraction would soon be shattered by a far more disturbing reality. As I approached the kitchen, I heard muffled voices, one deep, the other a high, melodic laugh. My heart quickened as I followed the sounds, my footsteps growing heavier with each step. The source of the noise was our bedroom. I paused at the door, my breath catching in my throat as I heard my wife, Sam, moaning softly. Carefully, I turned the doorknob and pushed the door open just enough to peer inside. The sight that greeted me was one I had not prepared for. Sam was in bed with a man. Not just any man, but a colleague of mine, Greg Davidson. His face was flushed, a stark contrast to the stark white sheets tangled around their bodies. Sam's eyes were closed in a mixture of pleasure and abandon, oblivious to my presence. The room spun as I tried to process the scene before me. I took a step back, retreating quietly to the hallway. My mind raced, scrambling to find some rational explanation for what I had just seen. But there was no escaping the truth. I felt a sickening weight in my stomach, a churning mix of anger and betrayal that was almost palpable. I paced the hallway, trying to regain my composure. My thoughts were a jumbled mess as I considered my next steps. My initial instinct was to confront them immediately, to unleash the storm that had been brewing inside me. But something held me back. Perhaps it was the clarity that came with the initial shock, a clear-eyed realization that rash actions would only complicate matters further. Instead, I made a decision. I would not confront them. Not yet. My instincts told me that understanding the full extent of this betrayal and devising a plan to address it would be more beneficial than a hasty confrontation. I needed to gather information, understand the scope of their deception, and prepare for the battle that lay ahead. Over the next few days, I maintained a facade of normalcy. I continued with my daily routine, albeit with a heightened sense of vigilance. I began observing Sam more closely, noting her behavior and interactions. I could see the little lies and excuses she made, the subtle changes in her demeanor. Her phone became a constant source of curiosity for me, and I found myself scrutinizing her texts and calls, trying to piece together the puzzle of her infidelity. In addition to monitoring Sam, I turned my attention to Greg Davidson. I conducted a thorough background check on him, digging through public records, social media profiles, and any available data. I discovered that he had a penchant for risky investments and a history of legal issues that might be leveraged. His business dealings were far from transparent, and his financial status was precarious at best. I collected every piece of information I could find, carefully documenting each detail. I began to form a plan, one that would allow me to exact my revenge without immediately exposing myself or Sam. I would use this knowledge strategically, creating a situation where Greg's misdeeds would become his downfall. The preparation was meticulous. I knew that any misstep could derail my plan and expose my intentions. I studied Greg's schedule, his habits, and his vulnerabilities. I carefully crafted a scheme that would not only ensure his legal troubles but also give me leverage over Sam. My goal was to manipulate the situation so that Greg's downfall would be inevitable, and in doing so, force Sam to confront the reality of her actions. As the days passed, the weight of my decision became more evident. I was no longer just a man betrayed, I was a strategist, a man with a plan. The betrayal that had initially shaken me was now the catalyst for a meticulously crafted scheme. I was preparing for a confrontation not just with Sam and Greg, but with my sense of morality and justice. In the end, I hoped that this elaborate plan would not only avenge my wounded pride but also bring clarity and resolution to the shattered remains of my life. The intricate plan to ensnare Greg Davidson was coming together with alarming precision. I had spent countless hours devising a scheme that would not only create legal trouble for him but also keep me in control of the unfolding drama. I knew that a direct approach might be risky, so I opted for a more clandestine method to ensure Greg's downfall. The first step was to fabricate evidence of financial misconduct. Greg's investment firm had always operated in a murky gray area, and I used this to my advantage. I managed to acquire and manipulate documents that appeared to show fraudulent transactions. Through a network of contacts, I leaked these documents to the appropriate financial authorities, ensuring that they would trigger an investigation. The evidence was compelling enough to spark a full-blown inquiry. I made sure that the authorities received an anonymous tip highlighting these supposedly damning documents. The tip pointed to Greg's alleged involvement in laundering money through fictitious investment schemes. I watched from the shadows as the news of the investigation started to ripple through the financial community. Greg was left unaware. His world began to crumble as the authorities scrutinized his every move. While Greg's professional life was spiraling into chaos, I turned my attention to creating the perfect storm for Sam. I needed to ensure she was deeply concerned about Greg's predicament and increasingly reliant on me for help. One evening, as I was lounging in my study, I received a call from Sam. Her voice was tinged with panic, a clear sign that the situation with Greg was deteriorating rapidly. She had just learned about the investigation and was desperate for information on how to help him. I could sense her fear and frustration, and it was time to put my plan into action. "Jack, I need your help," Sam said, her voice trembling slightly. "Greg's in serious trouble. I don't know what to do. They're accusing him of embezzlement and fraud. I'm scared. I don't know who else to turn to." I let her words hang in the air for a moment, letting her desperation sink in. My response was carefully measured. "Sam, I understand how distressing this must be for you. You're not alone in this. I have some connections that might be able to help us get to the bottom of this, but it's going to take some time and effort." I watched as Sam clung to my words, her anxiety giving way to a flicker of hope. I continued, weaving a web of half-truths and carefully constructed lies. "I can arrange for a discreet meeting with a lawyer who specializes in these kinds of cases. We must act quickly to address the charges and clear Greg's name. I can also get in touch with some contacts in the legal field who might be able to provide additional support." Sam's relief was palpable. She agreed to meet with me the next day, desperate for a solution. I played my role perfectly, arranging the meeting with a trusted attorney who was in on the scheme. The lawyer would provide Sam with just enough hope to keep her under my influence without actually offering any real help. During our meeting, I was the picture of calm and reassurance. I briefed Sam on the so-called steps we would take to assist Greg, while subtly steering the conversation to emphasize my indispensable role. I made sure to mention how my connections and expertise would be critical in navigating the complex legal landscape. As days went by, Sam's dependence on me grew. She began to confide in me more frequently, revealing her fears and uncertainties about Greg's situation. I used this to my advantage, subtly reinforcing the idea that only I could provide the solutions she needed. The more she relied on me, the more control I had over her emotions and actions. My manipulation was not without its challenges. I had to maintain a delicate balance between appearing supportive and ensuring that Sam remained in the dark about the full extent of my involvement. I continued to monitor Greg's situation closely, ensuring that the legal pressure remained relentless and that any chance of his exoneration was effectively eliminated. Through careful orchestration, I had turned Sam's distress into a tool for my purposes. She was now deeply entangled in the web I had spun, her desperation providing me with the leverage I needed to manipulate her actions and decisions. The stage was set for the next phase of my plan, one that would bring my quest for revenge to its ultimate conclusion. The combination of Greg's legal troubles and Sam's emotional dependence on me was proving to be an effective strategy. The legal troubles would ensure Greg's downfall, while my manipulation of Sam would secure my control over the situation. The groundwork was laid for the final confrontation, where I would reveal the full extent of my plan and watch as the pieces fell into place. The full weight of my plan was beginning to bear down on Sam. The legal storm surrounding Greg Davidson had reached a fever pitch, and Sam's anxiety was at an all-time high. I had expertly positioned myself as her sole source of hope, and now it was time to exert the psychological pressure needed to control her actions. The evening was cool and crisp, the city lights flickering against the night sky as I awaited Sam's arrival. I had arranged another meeting, under the pretense of discussing Greg's worsening situation and potential strategies to help him. But the real purpose was to tighten my grip on her and ensure she complied with my demands. As Sam arrived, her face was a mask of exhaustion and worry. The days of dealing with Greg's legal troubles had taken a toll on her. She looked pale, with dark circles under her eyes, and I could see the stress etched into her features. I greeted her with a practiced smile, one that conveyed both sympathy and authority. "Sam, I'm glad you could make it," I said, leading her to the sofa in my office. "We need to talk about the next steps." She sat down, her movements slow and deliberate, as though each action required a tremendous effort. I could tell she was desperate for a solution, and that desperation was exactly what I needed. "We've reached a critical juncture," I began, adopting a serious tone. "Greg's situation is deteriorating rapidly. The legal issues are only going to escalate unless we take decisive action." Sam's eyes were wide, her breathing shallow. "I don't know what to do, Jack. I've tried everything I can think of, but nothing seems to be working." I leaned forward, maintaining eye contact. "You're not alone in this, but we need to act carefully. I've been thinking about how to manage this crisis and keep Greg's situation from getting worse. There's a way to help him, but it involves making some difficult choices." I watched as her anxiety flared, a perfect opportunity to impose my demands. "There's something you need to understand, Sam. I've been patient and supportive, but this situation is delicate. If you want to ensure Greg's future and secure any chance of saving him from these legal troubles, you need to follow my guidance completely." Sam nodded, her eyes pleading. "What do you need me to do?" I took a deep breath, letting the silence stretch before I spoke. "First, you need to be aware of the stakes. I have information that could significantly affect Greg's situation and our future. If you don't comply with my instructions, I will have no choice but to make this information public." Her eyes widened in fear. "What information?" I leaned closer, lowering my voice to a whisper. "I have evidence of your affair with Greg. Evidence that, if disclosed, would not only ruin his career but also destroy your reputation. I've kept this information private so far, but my patience is wearing thin." The shock on Sam's face was almost satisfying. I could see her mind racing, trying to process the gravity of what I had just revealed. She was trapped between the need to protect Greg and the fear of her secrets being exposed. "I don't want to hurt Greg," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm willing to do anything to help him. Just tell me what you need." I nodded, a sense of control washing over me. "There are a few things you need to do. First, I need you to ensure that Greg stays away from any public interactions that could attract further scrutiny. No more statements to the press or public appearances. I want you to manage his media exposure tightly." Sam swallowed hard, nodding again. "Okay, I can do that." "Second," I continued, "I need you to make sure Greg follows my legal advice to the letter. I've arranged for a lawyer to handle his case, and you'll be responsible for ensuring that he adheres to the strategy we've outlined." She hesitated for a moment. "What if he refuses?" I fixed her with a steely gaze. "If Greg refuses, then I will have to consider making the information I have public. It's your choice. Either you comply and protect him, or you risk everything by opposing me." Her shoulders slumped in defeat. "I'll do whatever you say. Just please don't hurt him." I nodded approvingly, masking my satisfaction. "Good. Remember, Sam, you're in no position to negotiate. Your compliance is crucial not just for Greg's sake, but for yours as well." As she left my office, her demeanor was one of resigned acceptance. I had successfully manipulated her into a position where she was entirely under my control, her every action dictated by my demands. In the following days, I watched closely as Sam executed the tasks I had set for her. She was meticulous in following my instructions, driven by fear and the need to protect her interests. Her compliance was a testament to the power of psychological pressure and manipulation. With each step, I tightened my grip on both her and Greg, orchestrating the final moves of my elaborate plan. The psychological game was nearly over, and soon, the consequences of her betrayal would be fully realized. The weight of my manipulations was starting to take a heavy toll on Sam. As days turned into weeks, the strain of the situation began to unravel the fabric of her once stable world. It was becoming increasingly clear to her that her relationship with me had fundamentally changed. And the realization was both crushing and clarifying. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the cityscape, Sam arrived at our apartment. The atmosphere was charged with an unspoken tension that had been growing steadily. I could sense her unease, a palpable shift in her demeanor that hinted at the internal struggle she was facing. We sat down in the living room, where I had carefully arranged the space to maintain a sense of normalcy. The soft lighting and comfortable furniture were meant to create an illusion of calm. But beneath the surface, the turmoil was evident. Sam's face was etched with a mixture of exhaustion and apprehension, and I knew the pressure was beginning to crack her resolve. "Jack," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I need to talk to you." I studied her carefully, noting the tremor in her voice. "Of course, Sam. What's on your mind?" She took a deep breath as if gathering the strength to confront her fears. "I've been thinking a lot about everything that's happened. I can't ignore it any longer." I leaned back in my chair, feigning a relaxed posture while maintaining a watchful eye on her. "Go on." "It's like I'm trapped," Sam said, her eyes searching for something in mine, perhaps a glimmer of empathy or understanding. "I've been doing everything you've asked me to, but it feels like my life is slipping through my fingers. My relationship with Greg is falling apart, and it's all because of what's happening with you." The words hit me like a heavy blow, but I maintained my composure. I knew that her realization was a significant turning point. "Sam, I'm trying to help Greg. Everything I've done is to ensure he gets a fair chance and that his situation doesn't spiral further out of control." She shook her head, her frustration palpable. "It's not just about Greg anymore. I can see how everything is being manipulated. My actions, my decisions, they're all dictated by you. It's like you're controlling every aspect of my life." I could see the internal conflict warring within her. Her eyes darted around the room as if searching for an escape from the realization that her autonomy was slipping away. "You know that's not true," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I'm here to support you and Greg through this difficult time." Sam's voice trembled with a mix of anger and sorrow. "Support? It feels like I'm losing control of my own life. The more I try to help Greg, the more I realize that everything is tied to what you want. It's suffocating." Her words cut through the carefully constructed facade I had built. The impact of my actions was now clear to her, and the trust that once existed between us had been thoroughly eroded. She was grappling with the harsh reality that her life, once independent and secure, was now a battleground for my schemes. "I never intended for things to turn out this way," I said, attempting to sound conciliatory. "But you need to understand that we're in a delicate situation. The choices we make now will determine the outcome for Greg and us." Sam's eyes were filled with tears of frustration and despair. "I don't know if I can keep doing this, Jack. I don't know how much more of this pressure I can take. It's like I'm losing myself in the process." The raw emotion in her voice was unmistakable. The psychological pressure I had applied had reached its zenith, and Sam was beginning to crack under the strain. Her once clear sense of self was now clouded by the realization of her complicity and the extent of my control over her. I reached out to her, placing a hand on her shoulder in a gesture that was meant to be reassuring, but felt hollow in the face of her pain. "Sam, I know this is difficult. I understand that you're feeling overwhelmed. But we need to stay focused. We can't afford to lose sight of what we're trying to achieve." Her reaction was one of withdrawal. She pulled away from my touch, her body language speaking volumes about the trust that had been shattered. "I don't know if I can do this anymore, Jack. I don't know if I can continue living like this." The conversation ended on a somber note, with Sam leaving the apartment in a state of emotional disarray. I watched her go, the weight of her realization hanging heavy in the air. The trust that had once been a cornerstone of our relationship was now irreparably damaged. The psychological pressure I had applied had succeeded in controlling her behavior, but it had also exposed the fragility of the connection we once shared. As I sat alone in the dimly lit room, I reflected on the consequences of my actions. The realization that I had pushed Sam to the brink of her emotional limits was both unsettling and illuminating. The power dynamics had shifted, and I was left to ponder the cost of my manipulation and the impact it had on the person I had once held dear. The weeks of intense manipulation and control had left me physically drained and emotionally numb. The elaborate schemes and the meticulous planning had once seemed like the ultimate solution to my frustrations, but now, as the days stretched on, I was increasingly haunted by a sense of emptiness. The grand plan that had consumed me was failing to deliver the satisfaction I had anticipated. Instead, it was revealing an unexpected and uncomfortable truth. It was late at night when the weight of my realization began to settle in. The city outside my study was enveloped in darkness, the distant hum of traffic a faint reminder of a world that seemed increasingly irrelevant to me. The room was dimly lit, the only light coming from the desk lamp casting long shadows on the walls. I sat at my desk, surrounded by the remnants of my schemes, documents, notes, and photographs of Sam, each representing a piece of the complex puzzle I had assembled. As I reviewed the latest updates on Sam's situation, the sense of accomplishment I once felt was conspicuously absent. I had meticulously controlled every aspect of her life, each decision tailored to maintain my grip on her. Yet, the more I succeeded, the less fulfilled I felt. The anticipated thrill of victory was overshadowed by an unsettling realization that I was losing something far more precious, my sense of happiness and integrity. The pivotal moment came as I revisited a conversation I had had with Sam not long ago. Her voice, trembling with fear and frustration, echoed in my mind. I recalled her desperate plea for help, her admission of feeling trapped and powerless. Despite my outward calm and assurance, I could not shake the growing disquiet that her suffering was causing me. Sitting alone in my study, I began to reflect on the nature of my actions. The very strategies I had used to control Sam were now turning against me, revealing a profound emptiness at the core of my pursuit for revenge. My desire to impose my will had led to a situation where I was no longer in control of my happiness. Instead, I was consumed by a cycle of manipulation and retribution that offered no real fulfillment. The realization was both sobering and painful. The satisfaction of seeing my plans unfold had been fleeting. The deeper I delved into the control and manipulation, the more apparent it became that I was sacrificing my well-being for a hollow victory. My quest for revenge had not only impacted Sam's life but had also eroded the essence of my contentment. As I sat in the quiet solitude of my study, I felt a profound shift in my perspective. The control I had so carefully wielded over Sam was not a source of pride but a reflection of my dissatisfaction. I began to see that the power I had sought was a mere illusion, and the true measure of happiness lay not in controlling others but in understanding and addressing my own needs. In that moment of clarity, I realized that the pursuit of revenge and the meticulous control I had exerted had led me to a crossroads. The power I had so eagerly sought had ultimately left me feeling hollow and unfulfilled. The emotional toll on Sam and the resulting damage to our relationship had become a mirror reflecting my shortcomings and regrets. I made a conscious decision that night to confront the reality of my situation. The path to redemption and self-discovery required me to acknowledge the harm I had caused and seek a way to make amends. The pursuit of revenge had been a misguided endeavor, and it was clear that true happiness lay not in controlling others but in finding a genuine path to personal fulfillment. The following morning, I reached out to Sam, determined to initiate a dialogue that would begin the process of healing. I knew that undoing the damage would not be easy, but the first step was to acknowledge my role in the suffering and work towards repairing the fractured relationship. I was prepared to face the consequences of my actions and to seek a path that would allow both of us to find some semblance of peace and reconciliation. As I prepared to meet Sam, I felt a mixture of apprehension and hope. The road ahead was uncertain, but I was committed to pursuing a more meaningful and fulfilling path. The journey from vengeance to understanding was a significant shift, but it promised a deeper sense of satisfaction and a renewed sense of self. In the end, my realization was a pivotal moment of transformation. The quest for revenge had revealed not only the depth of my unhappiness but also the potential for a more genuine and satisfying life. The journey toward redemption and personal contentment had begun, and I was determined to navigate it with a newfound sense of purpose and integrity. The days following my realization were filled with a profound sense of resolve. I had come to understand that the pursuit of revenge and the intricate web of manipulation I had spun around Sam was not worth the cost to my well-being. The emptiness I had felt and the reflection on my unhappiness had led me to a critical decision, to end the cycle of control and confront Sam with the truth of my intentions. It was a crisp autumn morning when I prepared to meet Sam. The cool air and the falling leaves outside seemed to mirror the change I was about to undertake. The apartment, once a stage for my calculated schemes, now felt like a place of transition and reckoning. I had chosen a quiet spot in the living room, where the natural light streamed in through the large windows, casting a gentle illumination on the space. The room, usually filled with tension, now seemed like the appropriate setting for a conversation that would mark a significant turning point. Sam arrived, her steps tentative as she entered the apartment. There was a weariness about her, a visible sign of the emotional toll the past weeks had taken. Her eyes were tired, and her expression held a mix of apprehension and resignation. I knew that this conversation would not be easy, but it was necessary. "Jack," she greeted me softly as she entered the room. Her voice lacked its usual confidence, replaced by a subdued tone that conveyed her vulnerability. "Sam," I replied, gesturing for her to sit down. I had arranged the room to be as inviting as possible, hoping to create a space where we could have an honest and open conversation. "Thank you for coming." We both took our seats, the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts before speaking. The decision I had reached was not one I had taken lightly, and I wanted to ensure that I communicated it clearly and respectfully. "Sam," I began, choosing my words carefully, "I've been doing a lot of thinking over the past few days. I've come to realize that the path I've been on, the manipulation, the control, the revenge, has not brought me the satisfaction I expected. Instead, it has led to a profound sense of emptiness and regret." She looked at me, her eyes searching for meaning in my words. "Jack, I don't understand. What are you saying?" "I'm saying that I've come to understand that pursuing revenge and controlling every aspect of your life has only left me feeling hollow," I continued, my voice steady but tinged with emotion. "The pursuit of these goals has consumed me and caused significant harm, not just to you, but to myself as well." Sam's gaze was a mixture of confusion and hope. "So, what does this mean for us?" "I've decided to stop all the manipulations," I said, my voice firm but compassionate. "I want to end this cycle of control and give you the freedom to make your own choices. I realize now that my actions have been deeply wrong, and I want to rectify them by allowing you to live your life without interference." The words felt heavy as they left my lips, but they also brought a sense of relief. I had come to understand that true resolution lay in letting go of my grip and acknowledging the pain I had caused. Sam's reaction was a complex mix of emotions. Her eyes welled up with tears, and she looked away for a moment as if trying to process the unexpected turn of events. "Jack, are you saying that you're just going to let me go?" "Yes," I replied softly. "I'm giving you the chance to leave this situation behind. You deserve the opportunity to make your own choices and find your path without being under my control." There was a long pause as Sam absorbed my words. The silence was filled with the weight of our shared history and the enormity of the decision I had made. Finally, she looked back at me, her expression a mixture of relief and lingering sadness. "Thank you," she said quietly. "I don't know what the future holds, but I appreciate that you're giving me a chance to move on. I hope that we can both find a way to heal from this." Her words were both comforting and heartbreaking. I knew that the road ahead would be challenging for both of us, but I also recognized the necessity of moving forward. The decision to stop my manipulations and to let Sam go was an essential step toward healing and self-redemption. As Sam stood up to leave, I felt a mixture of sadness and hope. The end of this chapter was not a conclusion but a new beginning, a chance for both of us to rebuild our lives and seek genuine fulfillment. I watched as she walked out of the apartment, the door closing behind her with a quiet finality. In the solitude of the empty room, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. The path of revenge and manipulation had been a dark and tumultuous one, but the decision to change course and seek a more meaningful life was a pivotal moment of clarity. I was determined to move forward, embrace the opportunity for personal growth, and seek a future defined by authenticity and genuine connection. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was one that I was prepared to navigate with a renewed sense of purpose. The decision to release Sam from the grip of my control was not just an act of liberation for her but also a crucial step in reclaiming my happiness and integrity. The end of my tumultuous relationship with Sam marked the beginning of an unexpected journey toward self-discovery and renewal. The decision to let go of the past and focus on my happiness was not merely a choice but a profound transformation in how I viewed life and relationships. As the weeks and months unfolded, I began to piece together a new existence, one that embraced the lessons learned from my experiences and sought a future defined by genuine fulfillment. The process of moving on was both liberating and challenging. I found myself reflecting on the myriad ways my past actions had shaped my present. I spent countless hours sifting through old memories, letting go of anger and regret, and slowly reclaiming a sense of peace. The apartment, once a battleground of control and manipulation, became a sanctuary for introspection and growth. I started by focusing on personal development. I enrolled in courses that had always intrigued me but which I had never had the time to pursue. I took up hobbies that I had neglected, such as painting and hiking. The physical and mental space created by these activities helped me to rebuild my sense of self and to cultivate a more balanced perspective on life. The journey of self-improvement also led me to engage in activities that fostered a deeper sense of community. I volunteered with local organizations, offering my time and skills to causes that resonated with me. This new involvement allowed me to connect with others on a more meaningful level and to contribute positively to the world around me. It was during this period of personal growth that I met Emily. She was someone who brought a sense of warmth and vibrancy into my life that I hadn't experienced in a long time. Our connection was immediate, rooted in shared values and a mutual appreciation for life's simpler joys. Emily's presence was a gentle reminder of the beauty that existed beyond the confines of my past struggles. Emily and I began dating, and our relationship unfolded with a sense of ease and naturalness that had been absent in my previous experiences. Her kindness, compassion, and the way she approached life with optimism and grace were transformative for me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a sense of hope and excitement for the future. It was not long before our relationship took on a new dimension. Emily shared with me the incredible news that she was expecting a child. The revelation was both overwhelming and exhilarating. The prospect of becoming a father was a profound turning point, reshaping my understanding of what it meant to create a meaningful and fulfilling life. As the months passed, I embraced the responsibilities and joys of preparing for parenthood. The anticipation of meeting our child brought a new sense of purpose and direction. Emily and I worked together to prepare for the arrival of our baby, creating a nurturing and supportive environment that reflected our shared dreams and aspirations. The experience of preparing for fatherhood was a transformative one. It challenged me to reflect on the kind of person I wanted to be, not just for myself but for my growing family. I found myself increasingly focused on creating a future built on love, respect, and genuine connection. The mistakes of my past, while never forgotten, served as important lessons that guided my decisions and actions. When our child was finally born, the experience was profoundly moving. Holding my baby for the first time, I felt a deep sense of connection and responsibility that transcended any previous notions of happiness or success. The love I felt for this new life was a testament to the journey I had undertaken, a journey that had led me from a place of control and manipulation to one of genuine contentment and fulfillment. Emily and I settled into our new roles as parents, navigating the challenges and joys of raising a child together. Our relationship continued to grow and evolve, grounded in a shared commitment to creating a loving and supportive family environment. The past, with all its complexities and pain, became a distant memory as we focused on the present and the future we were building together. In the end, the path to happiness and fulfillment was not defined by revenge or control but by the simple, profound connections we forged with others and the growth we experience as individuals. My journey had been one of redemption and renewal, leading me to a place where I could truly appreciate the richness of life and the value of meaningful relationships. As I looked back on the road that had brought me to this point, I was filled with a sense of gratitude and optimism. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. The future was bright, filled with possibilities and the promise of a life enriched by love, growth, and authentic joy. The new chapter I was living was a testament to the transformative power of change and the enduring value of embracing the journey of self-discovery. As I embarked on this new chapter of my life, Sam also began her journey toward healing and rediscovery. The decision to end our relationship provided her with a much-needed opportunity to rebuild her own life. She took time to reflect on the experiences and emotions that had shaped her over the past months. With the support of friends and family, Sam found solace in pursuing her passions and aspirations. She began to focus on her career, exploring new opportunities that had previously seemed out of reach. This period of self-reflection and growth allowed her to regain her sense of independence and confidence. Sam also sought professional help to navigate the emotional aftermath of our relationship. Therapy became a crucial part of her healing process, providing her with tools and insights to understand and overcome the challenges she had faced. Through this journey, she was able to address the pain and anxiety caused by the manipulation and regain a sense of empowerment. Sam's resilience and determination to move forward were inspiring, and she gradually rebuilt her life with a renewed sense of purpose and self-worth. In time, Sam found herself in a new relationship, one built on mutual respect and understanding. This new partnership allowed her to experience love and companionship in a healthier and more balanced way. She continued to grow personally and professionally, embracing new opportunities and finding joy in the simple pleasures of life. As the years passed, Sam created a fulfilling life for herself, marked by personal achievements and meaningful connections. Her journey of recovery and renewal was a testament to her strength and the transformative power of moving forward with grace and resilience. Sam's former lover faced significant consequences as a result of my manipulations. The legal troubles that had been orchestrated to target him proved to be more severe than anticipated. He found himself entangled in a complex web of accusations and legal battles that strained both his professional and personal life. The stress and scrutiny took a considerable toll on him, and his career, once on a promising trajectory, suffered as a result of the false charges. In the aftermath, he struggled to clear his name and rebuild his reputation. The process was long and arduous, requiring considerable resources and emotional fortitude. Despite his efforts to fight the charges, the damage to his career and personal life was substantial. The experience left him disillusioned and wary, and he faced a challenging period of reassessment and recovery. Over time, he managed to find some semblance of stability by seeking out support and focusing on rebuilding his life. He took on new opportunities that allowed him to gradually recover from the setbacks. The experience served as a harsh lesson in trust and integrity, and while he continued to rebuild, the scars of the ordeal were a constant reminder of the high price of betrayal and deceit.